Hello, welcome to the Aquarian Mind podcast. Today's podcast, episode number 376. I'm your host, Jamel Crothers. You guys know what time it is. It's Mondays with Mello. Today we're delving into turning your dreams into reality. And this is going to be a good one because I am going to be a lot more transparent in my journey and where I am in my life currently. So let's get going. Now, how come we don't turn our dreams into reality? Why is it that we dream it but don't go after it? Why is it that we talk about our dreams but take advantage of our opportunities to do great things in our lives? And we really as a society hinder ourselves from doing what we want in life because of insecurities. I think that's part of it. The irony of all of this is our insecurities are from what the world tells us, right? Or we let people tell us what we can and can't do or can't achieve. We fear that we'll fail instead of just going after it, failing a few times until we get it right. It's all in our mindset, and it's how much we want to achieve with what we envision in our minds. Now, of course, you're going to hit your hurdles. You're going to doubt yourself from time to time. And dreams are sometimes messages from the world to go after what your passion is. And if you're spending time daydreaming about it, you can be putting all of these thoughts into action. Now, whatever you're dreaming about, make sure that you're writing out everything that you want to accomplish and achieve. Writing it in your notes app in your phone or on a widget or in a notebook, whatever works for you. And let's just say I use all three. If you're really ready to change your narrative and perspective in life, now is really the time to do it. And I know the world is in this really crazy place right now. There's a lot going on around us. And it's hard to compartmentalize all of it and stay positive, but it doesn't really matter how old you are. Age really plays no factor in chasing your dreams. And some of the most successful people in the world don't hit their stride until their 50s and 60s sometimes. Now, I am not saying that if you are in your 20s that you should be going 30, 40 years chasing your dreams. No, let's not go that far, right? But it's not to say that you will be someone who will get there at a later age. But it is to say that if you were to start now, you never know when your moment will really come. And that's what it's really about. It's getting to that moment where you're not necessarily waiting on anyone to help you to go after your goals. You're choosing to do it on your own terms. You're in the moment, you're destined for bigger and better things, right? And now I sit and I think about where I am in my life, right? In my transparency. Now, this year I haven't been, recording as many podcasts. I will say I haven't because I'm tired. And it's not just the physical, emotional, mental. It's also the spiritual aspect of life, right? Because I'm an empath. And when I decided to start turning my dreams into reality 10 years ago, and I published my first book in February of 2016, I had no idea where it would take me, right? And now I'm at 60 books, and I did retire at the end of last year. And while I could easily go full-fledged and write another 40, for me, there's no incentive. And I hit a wall. And with all the blogs that I write, and I turn all of these wonderful blogs into podcasts, I know that I've got to slow down on a lot of things that I've done in my life. I have so much content out. Now, literally a year ago, I left my job. And it wasn't because I wanted to. I've had my corporate job for 8 years. I, started in July of 2016, and when I started that full-time job in corporate America, I had already published 3 books already and had no idea that I would get to the place that I'm at now, where I do have 60 self-published books. But while I had that full-time job, a lot of things happened in the 8 years that I was writing and publishing books. You know, had a major health scare in my family, went through depression, went through therapy, got hit by a car, moved across the country. I experienced a lot in that time frame and in that process. Now, me working to turn my dreams into reality, a lot of it came to fruition. And I started this podcast, and the first year was just talking about all of the dark, haunted aspects of the world. And then after a year, that left me with no fulfillment. So I decided to change my podcast into my journey as an author, keeping you motivated and inspired, but then also being as transparent as possible. Now, after leaving my job under certain circumstances where the president of the company decided to turn the remote roles back to hybrid, and my job was across the country, so flying back and forth to be in the office one day a week made absolutely no sense. So for a whole year, I was spending a lot of time trying to figure out what's next. And because I am a writer and a content creator, I went in that direction of trying to find a job that would work for me in that regard and also be compensated for my talents and abilities. Unfortunately, it did not happen that way. And today I am starting a job that I do not want to do. And I am not passionate for it. And it goes to show you that you can schmooze your way into a situation and get a job just to survive. And the reason why I'm being transparent with this is because a lot of us are in survival mode. And it shouldn't be that way. Our lives should be fulfillment. And our lives should be fun. They should be exciting. And yes, there should be a couple of bumps in the road where you have to figure out certain things for yourself. I'm not saying everything is supposed to be, sunshiny days. There's going to be a couple of stormy days in our lives. Now, I have been questioning, why in the world am I going into another job where I have to survive? Why is it that I can't get the corporate America job where it does give me the stability, it does give me the health benefits and all of that wonderful stuff, but then I wake up in the morning and I feel happy and fulfilled that I'm going to do what I want to do with my life. Now, for me, I don't have a lot against corporate America in regards to if people want to do it and they love what they do and their stability and they're not running a hamster wheel of survival, then yeah, go for it, do it. But what I do have a problem with is how companies operate themselves and management and how employees are treated, how they're paid, how they're compensated, how they're able to utilize their paid time off that they work their butts off to earn, things of that nature, right? So basically, the nooks and crannies and the politics and BS of corporate America, that I don't care for. Is that going to be at every company? Yes, that's an unfortunate situation, but you pick and choose what you want to deal with. Now, turning your dreams into reality is really just working toward what you want to and getting to a place where you can potentially walk out of corporate America and do whatever you want to do. Now, being a writer is a lot more challenging now with artificial intelligence. A lot of companies are shifting in a direction of using that in order to speak for a company's voice. And I do pay attention to trends, and I do pay attention to a lot of what people post on LinkedIn, because people are in the crux of what's shifting and changing. Does that spell trouble for the real content creators like me and millions of others who write and craft stories that are based on, the world and what's going on around us? Yeah, in a way it does, but the companies that are true to themselves, and know that it takes people to tell stories, it's a beautiful thing, and companies won't sway away from that. What I'm trying to get at is I'm going into a situation where it's like I have one foot in the door and one foot not, one foot out the door. So for me, it's keeping my options open, and I don't like to hear the narrative of you are where you're supposed to be. I don't believe that. I think that some of the most talented people in the world are like hindered and like really held back from really getting to where they want to be in their full potential. And I know people personally that are way more talented than me. So I don't sit and toot my own horn and say, I deserve this, I deserve that. No, I've worked my butt off. And, I'm at podcast number 376 in year 5. And I have over 400 blogs on my website. And I have a podcast website that I haven't touched in God knows how long. And I've self-published 60 books. And I've built 2 websites from scratch. And I've done my whole social media run where, I do all my videos and have all my fun, right? But the reality of it is when does it get to a place where we are chasing what we're great at and then getting to where we belong? And, I don't want to be the person who's bringing the whole religious stuff and the praying and all that. I'm not that person. And I only say that because everyone has their belief system and they have to do what they feel is best for them. So I'm not that person. I'm not preaching the gospel. I'm just not that person. What I want you to know is that my transparency is important. It's not just giving you the words of wisdom, but it's also telling you where I am in my life. And for me, I want to be happy in all aspects of my life. I don't want to be happy in certain aspects, but then other aspects, I'm sitting here suffering in silence and trying to warp my brain out of how am I doing this when I should be doing what I'm really great at. And I've honed my craft, and I've continued to improve, and I've gotten better, and I've applied for all of these jobs at companies, and you know where the job market is right now. So if you're going through that part of it, I understand and I get it. Sometimes, you get to the interview, it doesn't work, they don't get back to you. Sometimes you apply, never hear back. Like, there's a whole lot of things. And even sometimes having connections doesn't always work to your favor. And sometimes it does. It just depends on, the situation. What I want you to know is that you can turn your dreams into reality. So your dreams where your eyes are closed and you're envisioning where your life, where you want your life to be, can turn into opening your eyes and turning it into reality. I just don't want you to be caught up in chasing something for 20 years when I think if you do something for a consistent amount of time, which is at least 5 to 6 years, that there has to be a point where a door opens for you. That's just my opinion, and that's my feelings. And I know people who have been doing things the majority of their lives. I've been writing poetry since I was 13. I didn't publish my first book till I was 33. I'm 42 as I'm recording this. So, yeah, you can find your passion and your purpose, but if, doors aren't opening for you, it's what am I doing wrong, or why am I, there's all the questions. But all I will say is, you don't have to necessarily give up, but sometimes you do need to take a break. And sometimes that's beneficial too. And with that said, that's my podcast for today. It was a little bit longer than usual, but this was a little bit more than just the words of wisdom. It was more about the transparency of where I am in my life. Website is aquarianmindrights.com. Everyone have a good week. Next podcast will be next Wednesday. Be good and go accomplish your goals.